Hey there. In this video, we're going to take a quick look at how do we factor trinomials um, when we're not only dealing when we're dealing with numbers that aren't all positive. In the previous lesson, we looked at how to factor trinomials that only have positive values in them, such as the two that you see on the screen right now. But what we're going to take a look at after we remind ourselves of how these trinomials work is what happens when we put a negative in the mix. So, just a reminder, factoring a trinomial, the idea is I'm trying to break this down into two binomials that will multiply together to get x squared or to equal x squared plus 4x plus 3. And one way we did this was we took the first term, x squared, and using what we were calling the box or the rectangle method, I'm going to go ahead and put my first term, x squared, in the upper left-hand box. I'm going to put my last term, positive 3, in the lower right-hand box. Because I know that whatever I put in the parentheses, this multiplied by this is going to give me my first term, x squared. And then this multiplied by this is going to give me my last term, the positive 3. And we'll deal with the 4x here in a second. But if we take a look and say, all right, what are factors of x squared? Well, it's kind of a weird question, but the only way, without using decimals, the only way to make x to the second power is to multiply an x with another x. And that part is convenient. It's nice because there's no guesswork there. And then the next thing we need to look at is, all right, what are factors of positive 3? Well, factors of positive 3 are only 3 and 1. So positive 3 and positive 1. They actually could both be negative. I could do negative 1 and negative 3, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. And now what we need to do is check to see, do I get positive 4x when I combine these last two boxes together? So in the upper right-hand rectangle, I have x multiplied by positive 3. That is going to give me 3x. And then in the bottom left-hand rectangle, I have x multiplied by positive 1. So that will be plus 1x because I'm multiplying a number with a variable. Can't do anything besides call it 1x. And then if I look at those two terms, these two right here, and if I were to combine them together, 3x and 1x does give me the 4x that I'm looking for. So what that tells us is that these are my factors or my binomials. One of them is going to be x plus 1, and the other one is going to be x plus 3. So I can just write that in as x plus 1 and x plus 3. Now, if you want, I'm going to get rid of the highlighting just to sort of clean it up a little bit. But that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to break down or decompose x squared plus 4x plus 3 into two different binomials. So if we look at the next one, x squared minus 15x plus 36, this is where we're going to start to see some things that are kind of interesting. We still have x squared out front, so I'm going to put that in the upper left. And then I have positive 36 as my last term, so I'm going to put that down here. Okay, and then it's okay, well, what are factors of x squared? Again, no option there. It's kind of convenient because I know it's got to be x multiplied with x. And then how do I make 36? There's 9 and 4, there's 3 and 12, there's 6 and 6, there's 36 and 1. There's a lot of options. 2 and 18. But we know that the end goal is I need to get negative 15x when I combine those last two rectangles. When I combine this and this, I need to get negative 15x. Well, okay, we haven't dealt with a negative yet. So if it was positive 15, and if I just look at my list of numbers or my factors of 36, I could go 4 and 9, I could go 3 and 12, I could go 2 and 18, 6 and 6. And if we look, I see that I can actually make positive 15. I could make positive 15x if this was 3x and 12x. And that is a possibility based on the numbers or the factors of 36. But But because I want a negative 15x, understand that there's more than one way to make or to find factors of 36. And one of them is not only using two positive numbers, but I could also instead use both negative numbers. So like -4 and -9 multiplied together still give me positive 36 that I have in the lower right-hand corner. I could go -3 and -12, -2 and -18, and so on. And what that helps me with is that if I put 3 and 12 here, oops, let's keep it the same color scheme. If I put 3 and 12 here, but I make them both negative, oops, switch those around. What that is going to do for me is I'm going to have negative 12x in the upper right. I'm going to have negative 3x in the lower left. And negative 12 combined with -3 gives me my negative 15. So I found the combination of numbers that works. Now I just need to write out the factored form, or the two binomials, and they are x with -3 and x with -12. So this is kind of what we're going to explore in the video, is what happens when I have a negative that's thrown in either at the C value, which is that last number, or the B value. We haven't talked about this yet, but this number, the coefficient of the middle term, is referred to as B, and the constant, or the number that is the number that doesn't have the variable, is referred to as C. There is an A value right now. It's the number in front of x squared, which is 1. So I'm not even going to reference A just yet. Okay, so there's our first two examples. But what I want to know is what happens if the B value is negative? What happens if that middle number is negative? And we kind of already saw this in the previous slide. What's going to happen here is I know that I need to make positive x squared there. I need to make positive 30 there. But I need negative 11x here. Okay, I'm going to start with the easy part. I know how to make x squared. Factors of x squared are just x and x. And then this is where it gets interesting. 30, I need to find factors of 30 that when I fill out the rest of the boxes in the area model or in the rectangle, they will combine to be negative 11x. And we've seen this number combination before. If I try to use 5 and 6, that's great. 5 multiplied by 6 is 30. This would give me 5x, and this would give me 6x. And when I add those up, I get positive 11x, but I want negative 11. So to fix that, all I need to do is actually make both of these numbers negative. I can't make just one of them negative. If I made just one number negative, a negative 5 multiplied by a positive 6, well, that will always result in a negative number, and that's not what I have. My C value, that last number, is positive 30. So in order to make this work, I need a negative on both. That will make both of these negatives. And now when I combine negative 5x and negative 6x, I do get my negative 11 that I'm looking for. So my factors, or my factored form, would be x minus 6 and x minus 5. Order doesn't matter. If you want to put x minus 5 first, totally can. Okay. If you want, pause the video, try this one on your own, but I'm just going to get into it, and we'll see how we can factor x squared minus 6x plus 8. Again, I'm going to take first term there, put that in the upper left. The C value of positive 8 is going to go in the lower right. Positive 8. I know that's got to be x times x. And if that gets boring, it will get more interesting in the next video, because we're going to start to see what happens if it's 2x squared or 3x squared. So now I want to make, in the middle, I have a B value, or a middle term, of negative 6x. Okay. Well, again, don't worry about the negative 6 right now. Our number one focus is I need factors of positive 8. 4 and 2, 8 and 1. Either one of those is going to work to make 8 when we multiply. But if I want to combine my last two terms to equal negative 6x, I got to start messing around. I can try 4 and 2. If I make them both negative, because clearly I need negatives in here because I want to combine these last two terms, need to combine to be negative 6x. And sure enough, here I get x times negative 4. Here I get negative 2 multiplied by x. And combined, these two will make negative 6x. So then I have my factors of x minus 2 and x minus 4. Okay. So kind of just a quick, if that middle term is negative, but the c value, that last number, is positive, we're just going to need to, it's the same type of factoring. We're just going to use a negative number on both the top. Like here, we did negative 5, and on the side, negative 6. So that's kind of the first big one, is if the b value is negative, we're going to use two negative numbers. The last thing, and this is where it gets a little bit more like, I don't want to say tricky, but it does get a little bit more, there's more variation possible, is if I have a x squared in the front, like we've had, but my c value, this number at the end, is negative. In this case, it's negative 12. So if I lay out my area model, I know this is x multiplied by x, but I need factors of negative 12. So if we think about what two numbers will multiply to negative 12, I need to use one positive number and one negative number. So if I'm going to use a positive and a negative, I'm going to need to figure out, okay, is it 6 and 2? Is it 4 and 3? Is it 12 and 1? What's the combination that's going to allow me to create in the middle positive 4x? Okay. And maybe you're shouting at the screen, maybe you figured it out. If I tried to use 4 and 3, made one of them negative, one of them positive, that would give me positive 4x and negative 3x. And then when I combine these two terms, that would only give me positive 1. So that's not going to work. So I got to try something different. And this is the kind of cat and mouse game that you play with factoring. It's just trying number combinations until we find something that works. And sure enough, if I put a 6, if I try 6 and 2, I know I need one of those to be negative. But I know when I combine them, I want to get positive 4x. So if I'm going to combine and get a positive 4, I can't have the larger number be negative. Like if I tried to do this, that's not going to work, because negative 6x and positive 2x combined is not going to give me positive 4. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to make my 2 be negative, 6 is positive, and I have plus 6x and minus 2x. Sure enough, that works out because those two combined will make 4x, positive 4x. So then my factored form, again, it's two binomials. They will be x minus 2 and x plus 6. The order can switch, but the 6 has to be positive and the 2 has to be negative. So again, just to get a little bit more interesting, because with one number being negative and the other being positive, there is some room that you might be really close to the right answer, but you have to switch which one is negative. Down here, same idea. I'm going to lay this out super quick. X squared is my first term. Negative 18 is my third term, or my c value. So x squared is there. Negative 18 is there. If I decompose this, I got x and x as factors of x squared. Factors of negative 18, I could do 9 and 2, 6 and 3. If I want to make negative 7 as my middle term, I can see how 9 and 2 is going to work to combine to make it negative 7x. And the way I can do that is by putting the 9 as the negative number, 2 as the positive number, and then that will give me negative 9x in the upper right, positive 2x in the lower left. And when I combine those two, I will get negative 7x. So x minus 9 is one of my factors, and x plus 2 is the other. Okay, so that is how we can factor when A is, when the C value is greater than 0, that plain number at the end. If you want to pause the video and try these, all I'm going to do is put up the correct answer, and you can kind of see how you did. For x squared plus 13x plus 12, I know it's going to start with x and x. Multiplies to 12. 12 and 1, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. But if I'm going to make 13x, I do need plus 12 and plus 1. Because here I would have 12x. Here I would have 1x. And together that would make 13x. So there's my answer for that one. If you want to draw in the box model, you certainly can. X squared minus 5x minus 24. Again, that leading x squared tells me I'm going to start by just x and x. 24 has a lot of factors. If I'm going to multiply to negative 24, I know I need one positive number and one negative number. So I could just put the symbols in there right away. 8 and 3, 6 and 4, 12 and 2. In this case, the combination that works is 8 and 3, but it only works if the 3 is positive and the 8 is negative. If I switch them around, that would give me positive 5x for my middle term, and I do not want positive 5x. I do want negative. So there we go. There's our second one. X squared plus x minus 20. Not a requirement. Don't do it if you don't want to. I would recommend putting in a 1 there for the coefficient for that b value so that I know when I combine my like terms, I want positive 1x. So if I start thinking about factors of negative 20, again, I have one positive, one negative. 5 and 4, 10 and 2, 20 and 1. In this case, 5 and 4 is going to work if the 5 is positive and the 4 is negative, because then I would have plus 5x there and minus 4x there. 5x take away 4x, positive 1. We're in business. So there is my factored form. And then last but not least, we have x squared minus 9x plus 14. Positive 14 means I either need two positive numbers or two negative numbers. If I'm going to combine like terms to get negative 9x, I do need a couple of negative numbers. There's not many options for 14. It's 7 and 2 or 14 and 1. And then if I do use 7 and 2, negative 7x, negative 2x combined does equal negative 9x. So there are the correct answers for those four. Hopefully you were able to try it. Hopefully you found some success with this. And then finally, I just wanted to do a quick little factoring summary. If you see x squared, but the next two terms are both positive, what that tells me is I know I have to have x and x in each binomial, and I do know it's going to be two positive numbers. I need two numbers that multiply to c, but then when I combine like terms, I get a positive value. There's only one option, that's two positive numbers. Over here, if the c value is still positive, you'll notice c is still positive, but b has now become negative. What that changes for me is this is the star of the show. This is what I need to really focus my attention on. Positive c can only happen if I have a positive multiplied by a positive or a negative with a negative. And in this case, because I want to combine like terms to get a negative b term in the middle, I do need x minus and x minus. And then on the bottom two, there's a little bit less. All I know is that if c is negative, I do know that I need one positive factor and one negative factor. So I'm going to have something like that. And now I just need to put the puzzle together to figure out which factor is positive, which factor is negative. So it makes my middle term that I'm looking for. And the same thing happens over here. All we have is simply x plus and x minus, and I don't know a whole lot more than that. So just a quick little graphic organizer to kind of show all the different layouts. I know that this will be the layout when I try to factor trinomials based on positives and negatives. Thanks for watching.